day the Varen ships entered Earth's orbit, the sky burned with silver light. Millions of people across the world stopped whatever they were doing, staring up, recording, praying, whispering. For decades, humanity had dreamed of this moment, first contact. But when the aliens finally came, they were not what people expected. Their ships were not like the movies. No sharp edges, no war machines. They looked alive, as if grown from crystal and metal mixed together. They floated silently in the upper atmosphere, their hulls glowing in soft waves of color that human eyes could barely name. The world leaders held their breath. Scientists in every nation began transmitting welcome messages in hundreds of languages, digital codes, and light pulses. And for a while there was only silence. Then the ships replied, not in sound but in light. A beam of color spread across the sky. Not red or blue, but something beyond. A kind of light that made cameras glitch and eyes ache. Only a few seconds passed before people began to feel dizzy, as if their minds couldn't understand what they were seeing. Then, without warning, a voice spoke through every translator, every radio, every screen on Earth. The tone was smooth, cold, and strangely beautiful. "We are the Varen. We come in peace. We wish to meet the species called human." The United Council of Earth gathered in Geneva. The top scientists, military officers, and diplomats prepared to meet the visitors face to face. Among them was Dr. Solen, a neuroscientist who studied human perception, how the mind turns light into meaning. She was quiet, calm, and deeply curious. When the alien shuttle landed, the ground itself shimmered. The air vibrated with faint sound like distant singing. From within the silver craft, 3 tall figures stepped out. They were almost human-shaped, but their skin shone faintly, like glass filled with running light. They had no eyes, no mouths, but patterns of glowing energy that changed color as they spoke. The first Varen looked around and then addressed the crowd. "We expected more," it said, its light pattern pulsing pale green. "You live in shadows. You see only a thin line of the spectrum. How do you survive without true sight?" The humans looked at one another in confusion. Mara took a slow step forward and bowed politely. "We see enough," she said softly. "Enough to understand beauty, to feel, to dream." The Varen's light flickered again. A laugh, perhaps. "Beauty? You mistake limitation for wisdom. You cannot even see the warmth of your own skin. You are blind to the truth that fills your world." Mara said nothing. Around her, the other humans shifted uncomfortably. The alien's words stung. News of the meeting spread quickly across the planet. Every media outlet repeated the same headline: "Aliens mock humanity's weak senses." The internet exploded with debates and fear. Some people laughed it off. Others felt humiliated. "How can we compete," one commentator said, "with beings who can see radio waves and smell sound?" The Varen stayed for several days, studying human cities and technology. Everywhere they went, they compared. They compared their perfect senses, their ability to see infrared heat, ultraviolet light, even the magnetic flow of the Earth itself, to human inferior biology. They made notes, shared reports, and sometimes even spoke openly about it. "Your kind is trapped inside 5 small doors," one Varen said to a human journalist. "We walked through 1,000. And yet as they traveled, something strange happened. The Varen were fascinated by human art. They visited museums and stared at paintings for hours. They watched people play music and listened, even though they did not have ears in the human sense. They said they were trying to understand why humans painted or sang, even when their senses were so limited. To them, it made no logical sense. If humans could not see the full spectrum of light, why did they still paint? If they could not hear beyond a narrow band of sound, why did they still compose? One night, Mara was invited to a private meeting aboard the main Varen vessel. She entered cautiously. The walls of the ship seemed to breathe softly with light, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and rain. Inside, 3 Varen waited for her. "Dr. Solen," one said, "we have studied your brain scans. They are inefficient. You process light through emotion, not logic. This causes error." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Error?" she asked. "Or interpretation?" The Varen lights flickered in mild confusion. She walked toward a window, gazing at Earth hanging below. Half lit, half dark. "You see all the light there is," she said quietly. "But do you feel what you see? Feel? When you look at the sunrise, does it move you? Does it make you wonder? Or is it only data? The Varen were silent. You may see more colors, Mara continued, but we see meaning. Maybe beauty is not in the wavelength, but in the heart. For a long time, the alien said nothing. Then one of them spoke again in a slower rhythm. Emotion. The humans believe emotion gives light purpose. Fascinating. When Mara left the ship, she looked up at the stars. She knew the aliens didn't come to harm them, but she also knew something deeper. They didn't understand humanity at all, and that misunderstanding would change the galaxy forever. The next morning, the Galactic Council, a gathering of hundreds of intelligent species, announced an event called the Sensory Exchange. Each species would demonstrate how it perceived the universe: sound, light, taste, touch, time. The Varen volunteered first, of course, and humanity? They were listed last, as if to be forgotten. But Mara smiled when she heard the news. Good, she said. Let them see what they think they understand, and then we'll show them what they never imagined. The Varen ships drifted above the planet, glowing like silent suns. The world waited. Some feared humiliation, others hoped for a miracle. But deep inside a quiet lab in Geneva, Mara and her team began preparing something strange. Not a weapon, not a tool, but a message. Something that no alien in the galaxy had ever truly experienced. Something that could only be seen through human eyes. And for the first time in centuries, humanity had a reason to be proud. Not because of what they could see, but because of how they could feel. The news of the sensory exchange spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Hundreds of intelligent species would take part, each one eager to display their superior biology, their evolved perception, their perfect understanding of the universe. To them, it was a celebration. To humans, it felt like a trial. Every media network on Earth buzzed with worry. Commentators argued that humanity shouldn't even compete. How could they? Humans could barely see between infrared and ultraviolet. They couldn't hear frequencies higher than a few kilohertz, couldn't smell a storm before it began, couldn't taste chemical changes in the air. Compared to the Varen, whose senses stretched across half the electromagnetic spectrum, humanity was a child staring at the stars through fogged glass. But Dr. Mara Solen didn't care. To her, the problem was not that humans saw less, it was that others didn't understand how they saw. The preparation halls of the Galactic Council were alive with noise. Each species had been given their own chamber to design their sensory presentation. The Varen chamber glowed like a storm, filled with light and frequency patterns invisible to human eyes. The Rethal, an insect-like species, used sound and vibration to display images through the air. The Orin, a cloud-like collective, projected sense that carried memory and meaning. Everywhere Mara walked, she saw wonder. Everywhere she turned, she heard laughter when people noticed her human features, her limited eyes, her fragile body, her simple neural patterns. You came to compete? One Rethal asked her in amusement. You cannot even see the structure of your own atoms. Mara only smiled. No, she said, but I can see what atoms make. Life, love, art. That's enough. The alien tilted its head, confused, as Mara walked away. Her small team worked in a quiet corner of the human section. There was Dr. Elan Royce, a composer known for his ability to blend emotion into sound. Sarah, a young painter from Kenya whose colors seemed to move when she breathed. And Kale, a programmer who designed neural patterns that linked emotion to energy. They didn't have alien technology or advanced senses. What they had was something else: creativity. Mara gathered them around a holographic table. On the screen floated the words Project Spectrum. The aliens see the universe in data, she began. But we see it in feeling. We don't measure, we experience. That's what they'll never understand unless we show them. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes bright. You mean, make them feel what we see? Exactly, Mara said. We translate emotion into perception. We don't copy their senses, we give them something new. Kyle frowned. You mean a neural resonance projector? But those are banned in the council. They can affect brain patterns. Only if used wrong, Mara replied. We won't control their minds. We'll open them, her voice softened. For once, let them see beauty. Not as color, not as sound, but as human meaning. As the days passed, the humans worked in secret. They mixed science with art, emotion with technology, They recorded heartbeats, laughter, sorrow, and turned them into waveforms. They painted scenes of Earth, sunsets, oceans, faces smiling through tears, and layered them with sound that carried human memory. Every detail was designed to speak to the heart, not the sensors. Meanwhile, the Varen continued to boast. They visited other teams, observing and commenting with sharp precision. The Rethal display frequency mapping, one Varen said. Efficient. The humans? Another replied. Still mixing colors with emotion. Primitive behavior. They laughed, a faint shimmer of light running through their crystal-like skin. But Mara wasn't listening. She was staring at the stars outside the council window. Somewhere up there were billions of eyes, each one convinced they saw the truth. If we do this right, she whispered to her team, they'll learn that truth is more than light. The night before the exchange began, the council held a gathering. Representatives of every species filled the grand chamber, a vast dome suspended in space above a blue nebula. The floor was transparent, the stars visible below. The Varen ambassador, tall and radiant, addressed the assembly first. Tomorrow, it said, we celebrate perception, the gift that defines life itself. We welcome all species, even those who see less than others. Its gaze turned briefly toward the human section. The crowd rippled with polite laughter. Mara stood silently. She didn't respond, but Elan beside her muttered under his breath, "They're not laughing tomorrow." She smiled. "No," she said softly. "Tomorrow they'll listen." That night Mara couldn't sleep. She sat alone in the dark observation deck of the human vessel, watching the nebula outside. Colors swirled in slow motion, radiant purples and blues, invisible wavelengths flickering at the edge of sight. She thought about the Varen, how they saw beauty as structure, light as data, sound as numbers. And she thought about the humans back home, how a child saw magic in a rainbow, how a painter cried before a sunset, how music could make someone remember a lost friend. Maybe, she whispered to herself, beauty isn't about how much we see. It's about why we look. In that quiet moment, something inside her shifted, not pride, not anger, but purpose. She knew this was not just about proving humanity's worth. It was about teaching the galaxy what it meant to be alive. When dawn came, the halls of the council glowed. The great event had begun. Species after species took the stage, filling the dome with dazzling displays of sense and perception. The Varen presented last before the humans. Their show was stunning. Waves of light that filled the air with visible radiation, each pulse showing the energy signature of every planet in the system. It was perfect, mathematical, flawless, and yet emotionless. When it ended, the audience applauded in reverence. Then, silence. Next, the announcer said, the species known as human. Every head turned. Every eye, every sensor, every alien consciousness focused on the small group stepping forward. 5 humans dressed simply, carrying nothing but a small sphere of light. The Varen ambassador tilted its glowing head. "What can they show us?" it murmured, "and that we have not already seen?" Mara glanced at her team, then at the silent crowd. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Everything." The lights dimmed. The sphere in her hands began to glow, not with data, not with numbers, but with emotion. And in that single heartbeat, the galaxy was about to learn what seeing truly meant. The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with quiet tension. Billions across the galaxy watched the sensory exchange through live transmission. A contest not of war or power, but of perception. Every race wanted to prove that their way of seeing, hearing, or feeling was the truest form of understanding the universe. And now, the demonstrations had begun. The massive hall dimmed as the first performance unfolded. The air itself seemed to hum. The Varen display. The Varen stepped forward, glowing with smooth, elegant confidence. Their crystalline bodies pulsed with waves of light that stretched beyond human sight. Ultraviolet flares, infrared halos, magnetic patterns no Earth camera could record. Their voice echoed in harmonic tones. "We see all frequencies of light, every movement of energy, every truth of matter." They raised their arms and the chamber filled with brilliance. The ceiling vanished, revealing stars seen through 10,000 wavelengths at once. Spectral ribbons danced across the galaxy. The light of dying suns, the whisper of radiation, the pulse of creation itself. To most species, It was breathtaking. To humans, it was just overwhelming brightness. Mara and her team stood in the shadows watching quietly. "They're good," Elon muttered.
"Yes," Mara said softly.
"But they're showing everything and saying nothing." When the Varen finished, the audience erupted in applause. The ambassador bowed, their light dimming in modest pride. The Catherian symphony next came the Catherians, beings of sound and vibration. They didn't show light. They made music. Their bodies were tall and translucent, shaped like flowing ribbons. They struck the air with motion, producing waves of tone that carried meaning. Each vibration painted images in the mind, cities built on sound, storms that sang across oceans, hearts beating in rhythm with the cosmos. Even the Varen stopped glowing for a moment, captivated. To humans, it was like standing in the middle of a storm that whispered your name. When the music ended, silence filled the hall, the kind that lives between heartbeats. Then thunderous applause. "They're better than us," Kale whispered. "No," Mara replied. "They're different. They make people listen. We'll make them feel." The Orin memory then came the Orin, creatures of gas and scent. They floated into the chamber like living clouds, releasing waves of fragrance that shimmered in the light. Every breath carried a memory. The audience suddenly saw visions in their minds. Childhoods, oceans, lovers lost in time. The air filled with emotion so heavy that even machines began to record neural echoes. It was haunting, strange, and beautiful. The Orin spoke in a deep, rolling voice. "We remember the past through what we breathe. You smell what you have forgotten." When their presentation ended, many species bowed their heads in respect. Some wept. Even humans were silent, moved by something they couldn't quite describe. "They turned scent into memory," Sarah whispered. "Then we'll turn memory into vision," Mara answered. Hours, humanity's turn hours passed. One by one, the other civilizations displayed their incredible senses, from heat perception to quantum awareness. Each one left the audience in awe, and then the hall lights dimmed once more. "The final demonstration," announced the moderator, "belongs to the species known as human." The room went silent. Billions of alien eyes and sensors turned toward a small group standing on the central platform. 5 humans. No glowing bodies, no strange instruments. Just a black sphere floating gently in the air beside them. The Varen ambassador leaned toward the others. "They have brought a rock?" A soft ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Mara stepped forward slowly. Her voice was calm, quiet, almost too small for the vast hall. "We don't see everything," she began. "Our eyes are weak. Our hearing is limited. Our touch imperfect." Her words echoed softly. "But maybe that's why we feel the need to understand. Why we search for meaning in every color, every sound, every face." The hall grew still. The Varen lights flickered in mild confusion. "We don't see all the light," Mara continued, "but we see the light that matters." She touched the black sphere. It began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter, as if lit from within by a heartbeat. The human spectrum. The sphere expanded into a soft pulse of color. Red, blue, green, familiar shades. But then, as the light spread, something new began to happen. Every being in the hall started feeling things they couldn't name. Emotions, faint at first, rippled through them. Warmth, sadness, joy, nostalgia. Images appeared in the air. Earth's sky at dawn, waves crashing on the shore, a child painting in sunlight. The Varen saw these colors but didn't just perceive wavelength. They felt emotion. They saw red and felt love. They saw blue and felt peace. They saw green and felt life breathing around them. The aliens looked around in wonder. "What is this?" one whispered. "You are seeing through human eyes," Mara said softly. "Not what we see, but what we feel." The music of Elon's composition began to rise. A slow melody, made of heartbeat rhythm and gentle tones. The lights of Sarah's artwork danced in perfect harmony. It was not a display of sense. It was a display of soul. The reaction silence filled the hall once more, but this time it wasn't confusion or pity. It was reverence. The Varen ambassador who once mocked humanity now stood motionless. The colors from the projection reflected across its crystalline skin, warm, trembling. "This," it whispered, "is impossible. These are feelings." "Yes," Mara said quietly. You can measure every wavelength, but you can't measure beauty. You can only feel it. Around the hall, aliens looked at one another, some overwhelmed. Others trembled, unsure why they were moved to tears, or whatever their version of tears was. They had witnessed infinite light, sound and perception, but never emotion. The human display ended not with a flash, but a whisper. The colors faded into a heartbeat's echo, soft, human, alive, then darkness. The silence lasted a long time before the applause came, slow, hesitant, then thunderous. Every being in the chamber rose to their feet. For the first time in the history of the council, the Varen lowered their light, a gesture of respect. Perhaps, their ambassador said softly, seeing is not understanding. You humans see with something beyond the eye. Mara smiled gently. We just call it the heart. That day, the universe learned something no sense could measure, that beauty is not found in what is visible, but in what is felt. And as the lights faded, the humans stood together, quiet and proud, as the galaxy applauded not their power, but their humanity. For several heartbeats, the hall remained silent. The colors from the human sphere still floated faintly in the air, like soft echoes refusing to fade. Every being present stared in disbelief, at the humans, at the lingering lights, at the strange warmth that now lived inside their minds. The Varen ambassador was the first to speak. This a sensation. It has no data, no structure. What have you done to us? Mara Solen stood calm beneath the fading glow. You are not seeing with your eyes, she said gently. You are seeing with something you never knew you had. The confusion, the chamber filled with whispers. The Catherians hummed uncertain tones, trying to analyze the frequencies of emotion. The Oran clouds thickened, releasing faint fragrances of confusion and wonder. Even the machines that recorded the event flickered. Their sensors couldn't translate what they had just witnessed. A Varen scientist approached Mara. Its light shifted nervously between blue and silver. Explain. You transmit no measurable wavelength beyond the visible range, yet the signal reached our minds. Mara smiled softly. That's because it wasn't a signal. It was a translation, a feeling. The alien tilted its head. Feeling is not a measurable sense. To you, maybe not, she replied. To us, it's the bridge between seeing and understanding. The experiment to prove her words, Mara lifted her hand toward the sphere again. We call this device the human spectrum. It records not only light and sound, but also the emotions tied to them. Joy, sorrow, hope. She touched the surface, and new colors bloomed. Warmer this time, gentler. A soft melody rose. Elon's composition pulsed through the air, shaped by heartbeats and memories. The aliens watched as images of Earth returned. Children playing in rain, an artist painting by candlelight, an old man smiling beneath stars. The Oran whispered among themselves. They connect light to emotion, scent to memory, sound to the soul. The Varen stepped closer, fascinated but uneasy. You use imperfection to create beauty? Mara nodded. Exactly. Our limits give us reason to imagine. Our blindness makes us dream. The words hung heavy yet bright. The transformation, as the display continued, the aliens began to feel more than they could describe. Some felt nostalgia for worlds they had never seen. Others felt peace, a calm that reminded them of long-forgotten childhood suns. Even the Varen, who prided themselves on emotionless logic, began to flicker in strange new colors. Their light patterns became unstable, pulsing with rhythms no Varen had ever shown before. What is happening to us? One of them gasped. Mara's eyes softened. You're learning to feel. That's what humans see when they look at light. A low murmur spread through the chamber. Many aliens wept, though most didn't know why. The air shimmered as countless minds experienced empathy for the first time. The skeptic not. Everyone accepted it. A Varen elder, his body glowing a cold violet, stepped forward. Trickery, he said. You infect us with illusions. Emotions are chaos and noise. They weaken clarity. Mara looked at him calmly. Then tell me, she asked, when you look at your home star, what do you see? Energy, radiation, power. We see home, she replied. We see the place that gave us life. Which one of us truly sees more? The elder hesitated. For the first time, he had no answer. The shift across the council chamber, species began talking. not through devices, but through the shared wave of emotion that now bound them. The Catherians played a note of empathy that resonated with the Orin sense. The Rethal tapped their claws in rhythm, their vibrations syncing to the human heartbeats echoing through the hall. The entire chamber felt alive, unified by something beyond science. The Varan ambassador finally raised its glowing hand.
Enough, it said softly.
We understand. Its voice, once sharp and proud, now trembled like fragile glass. We mocked you because your senses were small. But perhaps that smallness lets you see what we cannot. The understanding Mara deactivated the sphere. The colors faded, leaving gentle darkness. You all see the universe in different ways, she said. Through waves, particles, scent, vibration. But beauty isn't in the data. It's in the connection between what we see and what we feel. She paused, her voice steady but filled with warmth. We are not blind. We are human. We see beauty itself. The hall erupted in silence once again, not the silence of doubt but of awe. Every being there understood something new. That perception without meaning was empty, and meaning without feeling was impossible. The council chairman, a being made of light and crystal thought, spoke at last. This day marks a discovery not of science but of soul. The humans have shown us the unseen spectrum, the color of emotion. Applause followed. Slow, uncertain at first, then unstoppable. It wasn't celebration, it was gratitude. The aftermath later, when the chamber emptied, the Varan ambassador found Mara standing alone by the observation window. Stars drifted in the void, quiet and endless. Dr. Solen, the ambassador said, our kind once believed emotion was a flaw in evolution. We were wrong. It's not a flaw, Mara replied softly. It's the final sense, the one that makes all the others matter. The alien's light dimmed to a warm gold, the Varan sign of respect. We mocked you for seeing little, yet you see the infinite. We just see differently, she said. Where you find knowledge, we find meaning. Both are needed. The ambassador gazed at Earth glowing blue below. Perhaps the universe was never colorless, it murmured. Perhaps we were. The message when humanity returned home, they weren't the same. The galaxy had changed its view of them. No longer fragile, no longer blind. In council archives, a new category was created. Emotive perception, discovered by humans. The experiment recording spread across civilizations. Species that had never understood love began to compose songs. Beings that lived by logic alone started painting light. Across the stars, color found new meaning. As Mara watched the first sunrise after their return, she smiled. The sky was the same, orange, pink, blue, yet somehow more alive. She whispered to the empty air. They saw more light than us. But now they understand, beauty isn't something you find. It's something you feel. The sun climbed higher, scattering gold over the ocean, and somewhere far away in a galaxy full of light and color, the Varan watched their own sunrise for the first time. And felt it. Across the council worlds, the recordings of the human presentation spread faster than any message before it. On distant planets, children of alien species sat before glowing screens, watching Earth's images, oceans, sunsets, faces smiling through rain. They felt warmth in their chests and didn't know what to call it. The Varan, once proud of their perfect vision, began experimenting with color in ways they never had. They painted for the first time in their history, not with data but with emotion. Their glowing structures began to change, decorated with swirls of meaning instead of mathematical symmetry. It doesn't serve a purpose, one Varan architect said. It doesn't need to, another replied softly. For a species that once believed emotion was weakness, it was the first step toward feeling alive, a galaxy relearning beauty. The Catherians, masters of sound, started creating music inspired by human melodies. Before, their tones were used only for communication, perfect calculated frequencies. Now they played songs that carried sadness, joy and longing across their floating cities. For the first time, their people gathered not for work, but to listen. The Orin clouds began teaching their children about something they called the scent of the heart, an invisible pattern that carried affection, hope, and nostalgia. The Rethal, the sharp, mechanical race of engineers, started sculpting not tools but art. Everywhere, the influence of humanity spread, quiet, soft, unstoppable. Earth's new role on Earth, the reaction was overwhelming. Humanity, long considered small among the stars, was suddenly at the center of attention. Invitations from alien universities poured in, requesting lectures about human senses, emotion, and the strange link between art and perception. Mara Solen became the voice of this new era. The council declared her creation, the human spectrum, an artifact of galactic importance. Reporters flooded her with questions. "Did you expect this reaction?" one asked. She smiled faintly. "No," she said. "We didn't expect anyone to feel what we feel. But maybe it was always meant to be shared." Her words traveled farther than she could have imagined. The Varan visit weeks later, a Varan vessel descended quietly into Earth's orbit. It wasn't a diplomatic fleet this time, just a single ship glowing with soft multicolored light. From it emerged the Varan ambassador, the same one who once mocked humanity before the council. When Mara met them on the landing platform, the alien's voice was gentler. "Your world is beautiful," it said, the colors in its body shifting slowly. "We never understood what that word meant before." "Beauty," Mara said, "isn't what you see. It's what you feel when something reminds you you're alive." The alien's light flickered, warm, uncertain. "We came to ask permission," it said quietly. "We want to build a place on our world. A place for art, for beauty." Mara smiled. "You don't need our permission," she said. "Just your heart." The spread of emotion, soon what began as a simple demonstration became a revolution of consciousness. Species began sharing experiences through emotion, not just trade or science, but stories, dreams, and art, the galactic. Council funded what they called the Harmony Initiative, a network of stations where beings from different worlds could exchange sensory experiences through human-developed emotion translators. At the heart of every station glowed a small sphere, a replica of the original human spectrum. It pulsed softly, not in color or data, but in feeling. Aliens came to feel things they couldn't describe: laughter without sound, color without light, connection without words. A new phrase began circulating across the galaxy: to see as the humans see. It became a symbol, a way of describing moments of deep understanding. Empathy and awe, Mara's quiet reflection back on Earth. Mara found herself alone more often. The world hailed her as a hero, but she didn't feel like one. She often walked through the art galleries and observatories, watching people stare at colors they'd seen all their lives but now understood differently. One evening, she stood on a cliff overlooking the sea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and pink. She thought about the Varan, the Orin, and the countless others who now looked at their own suns and felt the same wonder. "We didn't change the galaxy," she whispered to herself. "We reminded it what it already was." Behind her, Ilan joined her, holding a small recording device. "You know," he said, "your voice will be in every Harmony Station transmission. The message about beauty. It's become the greeting for all travelers." She chuckled softly. "Then let's hope they don't get tired of hearing it." "No one ever gets tired of beauty," he said, "especially when they've just learned how to see it." They stood together, watching the horizon, the legacy of light and time. The Galactic Council added a new principle to its founding charter, a law written in hundreds of languages. Perception without empathy is blindness. Empathy without perception is silence. Together they create understanding. The Varan schools now taught younglings to listen to color. The Catherians composed symphonies that made stars vibrate. Even the cold Rethal machines painted murals on their metal walls, and every being knew who had started it. The species once mocked for seeing too little. Humanity had given the galaxy something more powerful than light, meaning. A universe changed. Years later, a message reached Earth from the Varan homeworld. It contained a short recording, a sunrise filmed from their planet's horizon. The camera didn't capture wavelengths or energy readings, only light, pure and simple. At the bottom of the message were 5 words written in the Varan's glowing script. "We finally see beauty too." Mara watched it on her balcony, her eyes misting. She replayed it again and again, not for the image, but for what it meant, proof that even logic could learn to feel. Closing reflection, as the stars brightened above Earth, humanity looked up at the galaxy with quiet pride. They had not conquered anyone. They had not invented a weapon or discovered new power. They had simply reminded the universe of something ancient, something every living thing once knew before fear, before pride, before perfection, that to be alive was to feel, and to feel was to see beauty. The final words spoken at the next galactic assembly were simple, repeated in 1,000 voices. They mocked humanity's senses until we revealed how we see beauty itself, time, and felt it. Centuries passed. Stars were born and died. Empires rose and fell. But one thing remained. The memory of the day humanity taught the galaxy how to feel. The event had become legend, told and retold across thousands of worlds. In schools, younglings recited the phrase with reverence. They mocked humanity's senses, until we revealed how we see beauty itself. And every year, on the same date as the sensory exchange, the galaxy celebrated the Festival of Light, a day of emotion, art, and unity that honored the small blue world called Earth. The Festival of Light. The festival began as a small gathering at the Galactic Council Hall, but it grew until even distant colonies and forgotten star systems joined. Entire planets dimmed their artificial suns for 1 hour, allowing the stars to shine freely. Cities glowed in shifting colors, red for love, blue for peace, green for life, gold for hope. And at the center of every world, a single human spectrum sphere was activated. It pulsed with soft light, just like the one Mara Solen had once held in her hands. When the pulse began, beings of every shape and kind closed their eyes, not to see, but to feel. They felt laughter, music, loss, memory, and wonder. They felt what it meant to be alive. The archives of emotion on Earth, deep beneath the surface in a vault known as the Archives of Emotion, the original human spectrum, was preserved. It rested in a chamber of glass, glowing gently, watched over by caretakers from every major species. The head curator, a young woman named Lyra Solen, a distant descendant of Mara, greeted visitors daily. To her, the sphere wasn't just technology. It was a living reminder of who humans were and what they gave to the stars. Every visitor, regardless of origin, was allowed 1 minute alone with the sphere. And every single one of them left in tears, or whatever their species' version of tears was. The Varan transformation on the Varan homeworld, change had gone even deeper. Once they built cities of perfect geometry, flawless and cold. Now their architecture glowed with color and movement, walls that shimmered like sunsets, bridges that sang when walked upon. Their scholars no longer taught light as law, but light as feeling. Children were encouraged to paint their thoughts, to dance their emotions, to dream. Every Varan school bore the same inscription carved in glowing crystal. We were blind in brilliance. Humans opened our eyes. Some even wore small pendants. A circle of color split into 3 bands, red, blue, and green, the human tricolor, symbol of emotional sight. The galactic choir, the Catherians, inspired by Earth's melodies, founded the Galactic Choir, an interspecies orchestra that performed across the stars. Their first symphony was titled The Colors of Humanity. The opening notes were simple, the echo of a human heartbeat. Then came the sounds of wind and waves, laughter and weeping, the roar of rockets, the whisper of the sea. When the music ended, silence filled every world listening. It was said that even the stars seemed to pulse in rhythm that night. The Council Monument. The Galactic Council eventually built a monument in Mara's honor, a vast spire of living light on the moon of Selvaris. It reached so high that its tip vanished into the clouds. At its base was a single quote carved in dozens of languages. To see the universe is to collect its data. To feel the universe is to understand it. Pilgrims came from every system to stand before that monument. Some came to give thanks, others simply to remember, and some came hoping to find what humans had. That strange, unmeasurable power called emotion. A lesson for the future. Though humanity had shared their secret with the stars, they didn't stop searching. They continued to explore, not just space, but consciousness. They built vessels called dreamwalkers that could translate thoughts into colors, merging art and science. Their explorers didn't conquer worlds. They connected them. Each human colony carried a fragment of the human spectrum, ensuring that wherever they went, the light of feeling followed. The final transmission one quiet night. Thousands of years after Mara's passing, a faint signal reached Earth from a faraway galaxy. It came from beyond known space, from a region untouched by civilization. When decoded, it was a simple message, a series of colors and tones that formed one sentence. We have seen beauty. We remember you. The signal's origin was traced to a planet long thought barren, a world once inhabited by the Varen. Their civilization had vanished, but their legacy lived on through the colors they left behind, painted across the cliffs in shimmering light. Each color represented an emotion: love, courage, hope, wonder. The same spectrum humanity had shown them so long ago. The return to light and time, Lyra Solen stood once again before the human spectrum, her reflection caught in its glow. She placed her hand upon it and whispered softly, "You changed everything, didn't you, great-grandmother?" The sphere pulsed in answer, as if alive, one soft heartbeat of color. Lyra looked up at the stars beyond the dome and smiled. "They mocked us once," she said quietly. "Now they all see through our eyes." The sphere's glow spread gently through the room, lighting the faces of visitors, human, alien, mechanical, and beyond. In that moment, no one was different. No one was greater or lesser. They were all simply alive. Epilogue, the color of forever. As centuries turned into millennia, the story of humanity's revelation became legend, then myth, then truth again. On distant worlds, when new species discovered light for the first time, their teachers would tell them, "There was once a species called human. They could not see all light, but they could see beauty." And somewhere in the heart of the Milky Way, the human spectrum still pulsed, steady, eternal. Not as a machine, not as a relic, but as a heartbeat, the heartbeat of a universe that had finally learned to feel. The final words of every festival of light were always the same, spoken together by billions across the stars. They mocked humanity's senses, until we revealed how we see beauty itself. And as the galaxy glowed in color, every being, from the smallest child to the oldest starfarer, understood. Beauty is not in the eye. It's in the soul.